Joining me now, Susannah Marshall. She is Arkansas State Bank Commissioner. Always good to be with you. Thank you, Madam Commissioner.
Thank you, Roby. I appreciate the invitation to join you today.
All right. This is a national story, but we're getting a lot of inquiries locally. For people who've just seen the headlines, but maybe haven't read into the details, what happened with Silicon Valley Bank and then Signature Bank of New York? I want to be clear that it's not the Arkansas Signature Bank, but from your perspective, what has kind of caused these headlines to erupt?
Well, I have not spent a significant amount of time analyzing what has happened to either one of those institutions, but I have glanced at the publicly available data, read and followed some of the national news media around it, and it appears that they certainly over time developed concentrations and business practices that what I would say are outside the normal traditional model for a community bank, and that we have here in Arkansas, for example. We believe that, when you look at some individual bank business models, there are areas which are not as often as diversified. And it appears that at least both of these institutions had more concentration in certain types of deposit customers or loan customers. And when those sectors became pressured or had issues of their own, then there was almost a spiral, if you will, because as they became pressured and the banks were trying to meet their needs of those types of customers, they were unable to do so, largely because valuations were declining in their bond portfolios. And when they went to liquidate it, there was not enough cash to meet those needs. And hence, unfortunately, a traditional run on deposits at those institutions.
Too many eggs in one basket is how we often describe that.
I think that's an excellent summary. Yes.
All right. So twofold question for you here. What's the potential danger or result for the national banking system? And then I also want you to speak to, I think, and I'm going to put words in your mouth, the consistency and the lack of danger for the Arkansas state banking system.
So certainly, I think the industry as a whole, I think the danger of those two failures on the industry as a whole and across the national level puts out a sense and feel of perhaps panic, concern, instability, anxiety within our business sector, within the banking sector. And quite frankly, we are at one of the strongest business cycles for the banking industry that we've had in many, many years. And so those failures certainly are going to create angst or concern. And I think it's very important for us at the local level and at the national level to ensure the public that we have a strong and stable banking sector, a strong and stable financial system. And our job is to ensure the safety and soundness of that financial system. I think the impact of those events over the last couple of weeks have really risen concerns that we have not seen for many years in this country, because we have had a period of very strong economic activity. Where we are today, certainly, is that there's so many pressures on our economy. We have the inflation, we have a rising rate environment. We certainly have, many types of impacts to the economy as a whole. But we are resilient, and the financial system is resilient, both nationally and here in Arkansas. What we want to focus on specifically is that community banks, by and large, stick to very traditional business models. They stick to serving their communities, serving their customers in those communities, and have very core types of deposit and lending activities. In Arkansas, as we're monitoring our institutions over the last couple of weeks, we are not seeing where there's been any impact from the national events to what's happening here at our state. We are talking with our bankers. They're reaching out to us. We're evaluating closely the industry as a whole, as are my counterparts, state and federal, across the country. And so I feel like we have reached a little bit more of a period of stabilization. And I believe that trend is going to continue. The key thing for most of your viewers to understand, and all of our public, quite frankly, is that you need to have confidence in your bank. We need to have confidence in the banking industry. And there's every reason to have that confidence.
Regulators did flag some problems with, particularly with Silicon Valley Bank, from what I have read, as far back as 2019. You are a state bank regulator. When you oversee these banks and the audits and the controls that you guys have from a regulatory perspective, you raise issues when you see things that need to be addressed. How do banks respond to those issues that you raise? Maybe that will help some people understand why, when those issues were raised out of state, something didn't happen that should have. The regulators seem to have done their part, I guess is the point that I'm making. Speak to me what happens when you guys raise some concerns with a bank.
Well, certainly the regulatory process is robust at the state and federal level. And we work collectively with federal regulators all the time to perform routine fully developed examinations of our institutions. Part of one of our many items that we do is evaluate all the different aspects of an institution: their capital adequacy, their management and risk management practices, liquidity, asset quality. There's a number of areas, both financial and non-financial, that we use to evaluate and make a determination on the safety and soundness of the institution. So often you will identify something that is not a problem or concern, but you may want to elevate that as a potential for management and the board to address, to improve, and to enhance. And that is a very common practice. That does not mean that there are situations where the bank is operating in a deficient manner, but it's our job to point out those early indicators and those early warning signs, work with the institution to perhaps encourage them to enhance and improve certain practices so that it doesn't lead to an unattended or extreme consequence or outcome for that institution and for the industry. And that practice has not changed. We have been strongly evaluating our institutions for many years. And I will tell you today, where we are in Arkansas, we have very strong institutions, and probably the financial metrics are at probably some of the highest points that we've had as far as positive performance and strong risk management practices.
So, Susannah, tell me, as a depositor in a bank myself in Arkansas, should I have confidence that my deposit is secured and that the FDIC is going to make sure that I don't lose my millions upon millions of dollars? Actually, it would be hundreds upon hundreds. But should I have confidence in my deposits at my local bank?
You should absolutely have confidence in your deposits at your local institution. Robbie, in the history of the FDIC, dating back to 1933, no single insured depositor in an insured depository institution or a bank that offers FDIC insurance, no one has ever lost a penny. And I think that is a very strong message to ensure that your viewers and the public as a whole has confidence in and is familiar with that understanding and that knowledge that they will be protected through FDIC insurance at their insured limits. And so I hope that certainly is part of a positive message that we can send to your viewers, to Arkansas banks, Arkansas communities, that our industry here in Arkansas is safe and sound. FDIC deposits are insured, and we're in an overall strong position.
I have not surveyed any memos you may have put out to your staff or to banks, but is this going to change any of your oversight practices? Or is it just a reminder to everyone that we've got to stick with the fundamentals, stick with the basics, keep doing the things right that we have been doing?
I certainly think that the focus should be on continuing to do what we've done well, and be mindful that these other activities, that what happens at the national level, we need to monitor that, see if there is anything that we need to change or enhance locally. There will certainly be plenty of conversations in the coming weeks and months about what happened at those two institutions and what, if anything, needs to be changed from a regulatory approach. I do believe those conversations will happen here locally as I'm talking with our examiners. I'm ensuring that they continue to focus on our strong evaluation practices around a bank's capital, asset quality, liquidity practices. We may ask more probing questions and enhance our review in certain areas. But that is not in relation to our banks, but more in relation to the industry as a whole and what we've seen to just to ensure that there is nothing that was, again, an unintended consequence impacting our institutions. But I don't believe we have to change our overall approach because it's been strong and sound and has provided good results within the Arkansas banking industry.